So, impact of microorganisms on humans and their activities. Already we have discussed two different impacts. One was the useful one. Yeast is used in bakery products. So, that was a beneficial effect. And then we saw how microorganisms spoil food. So, that is a harmful effect. Earlier also I told you all, when we say impact of microorganisms, it can be either beneficial or harmful. They cause both effects. So, here there is an assignment. Collect information about beneficial and harmful effects of microorganisms and present them to the class. So, this is something that you all have to do. You have to get information. You can get it from textbooks, you can refer from the internet, you can ask your teachers or anyone elders of your family or even your siblings who know about all these information. So, you can gather all these information and you can present it to the class in different ways. But now, I will discuss some beneficial and harmful effects. So, food spoilage is one harmful effect. Similarly, microorganisms cause diseases. Those are the two main types of harmful effects. At the same time, they have lot of beneficial effects. We use microorganisms in many different industries for many different purposes. So, for example, we use them in the bakery product. Like that, they are used in pharmaceutical industry. They are useful in agriculture where we produce compost, the fertilizers. So, like that, there are many useful effects. Now, I will move on to these impacts. Beneficial effects of microorganisms. So, the good effects, the benefits that we get from microorganisms. When we say benefits, where we use them. So, here, since ancient times, man has been using microorganisms in different industries. So, these are all uses to man. We use microorganisms. Now, you can see here, producing curd, producing yogurt, producing cheese. All these are dairy products. What are dairy products? Products made from milk. Earlier also we discussed with another assignment what happens to milk when we leave it exposed to the air for 3 days. You can see the food spoilage process. But the same thing can be used for our advantage. Microbial activity on milk to produce dairy products. So, curd is one such product. Then producing yogurt. Curd and yogurt are somewhat similar. The flavor, the taste and the texture are slightly different but similar products. Then cheese. You know what cheese is, again from milk. So, here all these are dairy products. Then we have the bakery products. We talked about bread and buns. So, just to recall what we discussed before, they mix yeast with dough, and when yeast acts on food containing sugar, there is carbon dioxide and ethyl alcohol formed. And carbon dioxide gives the fluffiness or makes the dough to rise, and also the alcohol gives a flavor. But the alcohol evaporates off when bread is baked at high temperature. So, that is again another type of product that you use as microorganisms. Then we have producing antibiotics. What are antibiotics? Antibiotics are medicines that are taken to control activity of microorganism within the body. When we say activity of microorganism within the body, these are pathogens. Pathogen means microorganism that can cause harm to our body. So, they enter the body and they cause diseases. And to control these pathogens, the microorganism, we take antibiotic. That is a medicine. But that antibiotic is also produced from a microorganism. For example, if we take penicillin, penicillin is an antibiotic produced from penicillium, that is a fungus. So, these are all for your additional knowledge, but just remember the name, penicillin, that is an antibiotic. So, that is produced from microorganisms, again to control microorganisms. You will discuss these later in your other grades. Similarly, we have vaccines. You know why we take vaccine. I am sure you were vaccinated for different types of diseases. So, this is a preventive measure. When you get vaccinated, you don't get that particular disease. So, to produce the vaccine also, we use the same microorganism. So, as I told you, microorganisms that are pathogens cause diseases. So, if we use those substances to produce the vaccine, we can prevent the disease from occurring to us. So, producing antibiotics, producing vaccines, these are in the medical field or pharmaceutical industry. Then another one, producing vinegar and alcohol. We already saw where alcohol is produced, ethyl alcohol, during fermentation process. I told you all it's known as alcohol fermentation. Using that, we can also produce vinegar. So, vinegar and alcohol are produced using microorganisms. Then as food that are rich in protein. I am sure you have eaten mushrooms. So, these are food rich in protein, and mushroom is a fungus. So, here this is a fungus. Again, penicillium is a fungus. So, fungi used in the production of antibiotics and also as food. So, there are different types of organisms being used for all these different purposes. Then we have this making compost. What is compost? I am sure you are familiar with that. We take soil, with that we mix all the organic waste materials. The organic waste what you get from your household. So, all these are mixed together and they are allowed to react in the presence of microorganisms. When we say organic substances, they are again rich in all these substrates, and the microorganisms act on it and they convert this organic material into nutrition that can be provided to the plants. So, compost is a fertilizer, natural fertilizer used to provide all the required nutrients to plants. So, in the production of compost, that is a type of fertilizer, we use microorganisms. They are the ones who decompose the organic substances. Then we have the production of biogas. Now, biogas is methane. That is the name, that is the chemical substance of biogas. So, methane is what is produced in this process. We call it biogas because again from organic waste materials. We put all the organic materials into containers like this. They are a closed container. Into that the microbial activity takes place, and when microbial activity takes place, the organic substances are converted to other components, and at that time biogas is produced. And biogas can be used as a fuel. Like LP gas that we use at home, we can also use biogas for the cooking purposes and other purposes. But the difference is biogas has a very strong smell. So, that process also involves microorganisms. Then we have the coir industry. In coir industry, like say coconut fiber. From the coconut husk, they separate out the fibers, combine it together and they produce coir. So normally you have seen coconuts. You know how hard it is to separate out the fibers. But to produce coir, you need to do that. There only microorganisms are useful. Microorganisms are used to separate the fibers from husk. So as you can see, all these are different industries. These are related to food, all the first four, even mushroom. Then this is the medicines, that is the pharmaceutical industry. Then again vinegar and alcohol is used for cooking as well. We have compost, fertilizer for plants, agriculture, then producing biogas and the coir industry. So you can see they are very useful in very different industries. So that is a beneficial effect. And here again I introduced two types of fungi. One is mushroom, that is also a fungus, and here I mentioned penicillin, that is the antibiotic that is obtained from penicillium, that is also a fungus. Those are for your additional information. So with that, I will move on to the next one. So another beneficial effect, microorganisms decompose dead plant and animal matter. If not, these matter get collected and it affects the balance of environment. Therefore, microorganisms contribute to the well-being of the environment. Now say, here they have mentioned the dead plant and animal matter. So even in a natural environment like a forest, the plants and the animals die. They are there within the forest itself. So if they remain like that, then there can be an imbalance. There can be lot of complications. That is what we say balance of environment. If everything goes on in a proper cyclic manner, then there is balance. When the microorganisms die, they have to decompose. They have to be converted to a different form. So their microorganisms are very useful. The same way, all the organic waste that we get from our household, if they all collect in the environment, there will be lot of garbage. Those are decayable garbage, organic garbage. But if microbial activity doesn't take place, if microorganisms don't act on garbage, they will collect in the environment. That will disturb the balance of the environment. So microbes are very, very important. They decompose all these organic materials, dead plants and animals as well as organic waste materials. Then that contributes to the balance of environment and well-being of the environment, so that the environment is in its normal good state. Then we have the third one. Microorganisms are also used to control pests. Now, pest. When we say pest, pests are some organisms like insects or some other organism that can destroy the growth of another crop or another organism. So here a microorganism is used to control pests. And that process, there are different ways of controlling pests. But if you use a microorganism, that is a biological organism. Therefore, we call it the biological control method. This is one of the biological control methods of pest. So, pest can be controlled using biological methods. but that also they use different types of fungi. Again, as I told you all students, in this lesson, I'm introducing or you're introduced to all the concepts, what microorganisms are and how they are favorable to us or how they can be harmful to us, but all the details you will learn in the future grades. So with that, I will move on to the next slide where we look at the harmful effects of microorganisms. So harmful effects of microorganisms. All this time we discussed the beneficial effects and now we are going to discuss the harmful effects. You already know one harmful effect. What is that? Food spoilage. So the first one is food spoilage. I mentioned the other type of harm also, causing diseases. So microorganisms cause infectious diseases to us, that is man, and also to other animals and plants. So they cause infectious diseases to man, animals and plants. And also they cause economical damage. Why? By growing on different surfaces. You would have seen microorganisms growing on wood, microorganisms growing on clothes, and they damage those substances, the wood or the cloth. So then it cannot be used for a long period of time. So that leads to economical damage. So food spoilage, infectious diseases and economical damage to clothes and wood. So these are all different types of harmful effects. Now we will discuss them one by one. Microbial activity causes food spoilage, that we have discussed in detail. The three types of food spoilage: fermentation, putrefaction and rancidity. So here you can see growth of microorganisms on vegetables. All these patches on carrot. And after it happens for a longer period of time, you cannot use that carrot for cooking or consumption. So that is a harmful effect. Then growth of microorganism on bread. What is this microorganism? It is mucor, a type of fungus. And growth of microorganism on fruits. Even fruits become very soft, they give a weird smell, so you cannot eat the food, and also their nutritional value is lost. So all these we have discussed before. Microbial activity causes food spoilage, the first one. Then we'll move on to the second type of harmful effect. Microorganisms cause various infectious diseases for man, animals and crops. So I told you all that first we will look at the infectious diseases caused to man. So here you can see the different types of microorganisms and the diseases caused by these. You need to know these examples. If we take the first one, virus. Virus, you know, is visible only through electron microscope, and also it has non-living features and living features. It causes common cold, the normal cold we get. That's why we call it common cold. Then dengue, you know the dengue fever, a very dangerous disease. It can become fatal also. So here you can see dengue hemorrhagic patient. When the patient is affected by dengue, it is caused by a virus, the dengue virus. There can be hemorrhage, that is bleeding. They do vomit blood or there is bleeding, internal bleeding, so that can become fatal. So that is a disease caused by virus. Then another one is AIDS, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. So this is again caused by AIDS virus, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. This virus affects the immune system of our body. So that also becomes fatal. So AIDS is another disease caused by virus. Then bacteria. It causes tuberculosis, what we call as TB. This is a disease related to the lungs. You know the breathing process that is related to lungs, and TB or tuberculosis is a disease caused by bacteria in the lungs. Then leprosy, that is related to both skin and the muscles. Here you can see deformity or decaying of the parts of the body. These parts you can see due to bacterial infection. This is the leprosy condition. So that is also very, very dangerous disease. Then the typhoid fever. That again is a high fever that is caused by this bacteria. Typhoid causing bacteria. So you can see different types of diseases. We will take the next one. Protozoa. We have discussed protozoans before. Can you all remember the two types? Amoeba and paramecium. There are many other protozoans as well, and they cause different diseases. First one is malaria. Malaria, you know, is a disease where you get very high fever, and even that can be fatal. And again, malaria is also the vector, it's carried by mosquitoes. So you have to be careful. Then leishmaniasis, that is again by protozoans. So this is also a disease where there is a sore occurring in the skin, and also internal organs get affected by protozoans. Leishmaniasis. And then amoebiasis. So from the name you know it's caused by amoeba. Amoebiasis, the stool, the feces going very in a liquid form. The stool, you know what stool is or the feces is. It will be passed in a liquid form, amoeba dysentery or amoebiasis. In addition to that, there can be fever and other symptoms related to amoebiasis. It's caused by amoeba, a protozoa. Then we have the fungi that causes pityriasis or sore. Pityriasis is kind of a rash. Now here in this picture, you can see these white color rashes. That's the growth of fungi. Normally fungus usually cause rashes on the skin. So that is pityriasis. So these are different examples of infectious diseases caused to man. You have to remember the name of the microorganism and the diseases caused by each type of microorganism. With that, I will move on to the next one, infectious diseases caused to animals. So here you can see rabies. Rabies is a common disease among animals like cats, dogs, all these animals, and usually when they have rabies, that is again caused by a microorganism. Here you can see the saliva coming out and all that, and if you are bitten by a dog or a cat that has rabies, then you also can be affected by rabies, and that disease is also somewhat fatal. So you have to be careful. A dog suffering from rabies. Then here you can see a bull suffering from foot and mouth disease. So foot, mouth disease in the feet, in the sole as well as the mouth. You get like wounds like or blisters like nature, that is the foot and mouth disease. You can see here again the saliva coming down from the mouth. Similarly, we also get the hand, foot and mouth disease. So here they only have the feet, so that's foot and mouth disease. We have feet, hands, so hand, foot and mouth disease. So that's another disease caused to animals. Then the next one, a cow suffering from mastitis. When we say mastitis, you can see the mammary gland being swollen. So due to this infection, the mammary gland swells up and they get a severe pain and difficulty in producing milk. So that is also a disease caused by pathogens. So all these, rabies, foot and mouth disease and mastitis are different types of diseases caused by microorganisms to animals. The same way, microorganisms cause diseases to plants. Now we will look at some of those examples. Infectious diseases caused to plants. In the first diagram, it is a potato plant with blight. So we just normally call it the potato blight. In this picture, you can see this part of the plant. It has become very dry and brownish color like a burnt nature. So that is the symptom of this potato blight. So the plant dries off and gets a burnt nature and that affects the plant. So that is caused by microorganism. Then pepper leaves with mosaic disease. Normally mosaic means like a pattern. So here if you look at the leaf of pepper, you can see this whitish color region. Normally the leaves have to be green in color and usually they have the same green color, uniform green color, so that they can synthesize their own food by photosynthesis. But here the leaf becomes whitish in color, the mosaic disease. So again the yield of plants can be affected. There are other symptoms as well. So the main symptom is you see this mosaic nature in the leaves. Then the next one, chili plant with leaf curled disease. Here again you can see at these parts the leaves are completely curled. So again they can't do photosynthesis. So that is also caused by a microorganism. So you all have to remember, one is the potato plant, it has blight disease, then pepper, mosaic disease and chili plant with leaf curl disease. And all these diseases are caused by microorganisms. So you have to remember all that. So under harmful effects, we discussed the spoilage of food. That also in detail we discussed it. Now we have discussed the different types of diseases caused to man, animals and now plants. So that is the second type of harmful effect caused by microorganisms. With that, I will move on to the next example or next type of harmful effect, that is the economical damage that is caused to both wood, surfaces and clothes. So damage caused due to the growth of microorganism on surfaces of objects. So here you can see fungi grown on clothes. You can see this particular dress and in these parts you can see the white color fungal growth. Sometimes it's black color dots, sometimes it's whitish color and that damages the quality of the clothes. The color changes, there can be holes, they can give a bad smell. Even if you wash it off, sometimes you may not be able to get rid of it. So because of that, you can't use the clothes again. So that causes economical damages. Same way, if you look at the wall here, you can see this part where the fungus has grown. So there it damages the paint of the wall and the top surface, the texture of the wall, then it has to be broken down. You have to plaster it, paint it, then for maintenance there is a cost. So that cost is due to the fungal growth. So that is also a problem caused by or a damage caused by microorganisms on surface of objects. The same way, if we look at these wooden structures, here you can see, even in your households you would have seen all these. A building, normally if it is a new building, a new house or a new building, it's very nice and clean and all that. But with time, if there is not enough maintenance, sometimes there are leaks, sometimes due to rainwater, you might have seen this fungal growth on walls and fungal growth on wooden surfaces. So then with the fungal growth, the wood starts decaying. Then you might have to replace the window or the door, maybe the frame. So that again causes economical damage. So here you can see damage caused due to the growth of microorganisms on surface of objects. As examples, we have looked at fungal growth on clothes, walls and wooden surfaces. One thing that you have to remember here, what is growing on all these surfaces? Fungus. So mostly the fungus, there are different types of microorganisms. Out of those, fungus is the one that damages these non-living things or the things around us. All the other examples you saw, there were different organisms. Diseases are caused by 4 different types: virus, bacteria, fungus and protozoa. Similarly, food spoilage. But here it's all fungus. So you have to remember all those examples. So with that, students, I have come to the end of the lesson. So initially we discussed what microorganisms are, how we can observe them. Then we looked at the different types of microorganisms, why they are diverse in biology or biologically diverse. And then we saw how they affect the food, how they grow on food, what effect they cause. Then we discussed food spoilage in a little bit of detail. And after that, we looked at the beneficial and harmful effects of microorganisms. So I am sure now you have an idea about what microorganisms are and the effects of microorganisms on man or food, as well as the harmful and beneficial effects to man and other living organisms. So with that, we have completed the lesson. So now I will move on to the summary of the lesson. Summary. The organisms which cannot be observed by naked eye are called microorganisms. So this is an important term here. Naked eye, cannot observe with the naked eye. Microorganisms cause beneficial effects as well as harmful effects. We discussed that also, both beneficial and harmful effects. Usage in various industries, decomposition of dead plant and animal matter, and pest control are beneficial effects of microorganisms. We discussed examples as well. Food spoilage cause infectious diseases for man, animals and crops, and damage to economically important surfaces are harmful influences caused by microorganisms. The harmful effects of microorganisms. Then nutrients, moisture, favorable temperature and favorable pH values are necessary for microbial growth. So you have to remember nutrients, that is the food, moisture, favorable temperature and favorable pH are values that are necessary for microbial growth. And finally, food can be preserved by implementing necessary methods to control microbial activity. So that is controlling of food spoilage. So with that, students, I have come to the end of lessons. So by just listening to the discussion once is not enough. You have to read your textbook, you have to listen to the discussion to clarify any further doubts, and then you have to answer questions. So when you answer questions only, you will know whether you have understood the lesson clearly or not. So when you do that, if you have a doubt, again listen to the discussion and read your textbook so that you can clear all your doubts. After that also, practice answering questions. So to do that, I will be doing the discussion of the exercise given in your textbook, and also I will be discussing some more additional questions.